Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to the next in the numerology series for 2020. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, share, and if you should so choose and it resonates, hit that subscribe button. If you are already a continued subby, you know I love you for it. With that said, so we're here to talk about the numerology of 2020. Last year I did this, or the year before, should I say, just before we hit 2019, I did this. 2019 was a 3-year. 2020 is a 4-year. We're heading into a 4-year, a 4 energy, a 4 vibration. And I see the numbers as shapes and vibrations. And when you can understand those things, it gives you an idea of the energy or the quality or the texture of the energy that you're going to be working around, that is going to surround you or be playing out in the world at large. So some really interesting things to talk about with this year. Obviously 2020 is a 4-year. The number 4 is ruled by Saturn. And what I find really amazing and very intriguing about this is we have Saturn, which is currently in Capricorn, right? The planet Saturn, which is all to do with limitations and all the rest of it. I don't want to talk too much about the astrology, but I really do think it's worth mentioning the Saturn and Pluto conjunction that is going to govern pretty much the whole year. That energy is going to, it's going to be there in the underlying background, so to speak. Takes place at the 22nd degree of Capricorn, right? And then you've got this 22, even though it's a master number, you simplify it, it gives you the number 4. So this kind of tells me that this energy right out of the gate, right there in January, that energy is going to permeate everything. The energy of the number 4 kicks in on the 1st of January. As soon as we cross the threshold into the new year, and this is the same as well, even if it's for your birthday. Obviously it might straddle a little bit, but it's definitely from the year, right? Because the year itself is what dictates the tone. Organization, right? Whenever I think about organization, I think about the natural world. And when I think about the natural world, I think about flowers, how each petal is perfectly placed around the center. The way that it grows, it's all structured, it's all organized. It's the same thing for the human body, how your foot equals the same distance from your wrist to your elbow. I think it's called the golden ratio, of the body and how it measures up. Really interesting stuff. When I think about organization, this isn't about being, OCD or about being anal, but this is a year for you to get organized. This is a year for you to get your ducks in a row, financially, mentally, spiritually, physically, in your home, especially in your structure, finding organization. And when we talk about organization, this is about finding the right time, the right space, the right energy for everything to perform its function to the optimum. So when I talk about organization, as a good example, if you've got all your paperwork sort of laid out, when somebody says to you, I need this, you can just go straight to it. When I think about organization, I'm thinking about putting your life into some sort of personal filing cabinet. It doesn't have to be all segmented and pretty colors and, alphabetized and all the rest of it, but finding some way to streamline your life by the process of organization. And when you think about organization, when you think about the natural world, it has beauty in it because it's orderly, right? And orderliness, this is another number 4 buzzword that's not on the board. When you think about those things, how they say that the mark of true beauty is people that have a symmetrical face. Like the more symmetrical your face is, the more beautiful you are considered, right? Really interesting concept, but I think you kind of get the point about that. So finding ways to organize your life this year is going to be very important, and providing you work with that energy, you can really streamline things for the better going forward. The 4 bodies, this is an interesting one to talk about. So your mental, physical, emotional and spiritual, aligning those 4, realigning those 4, bringing the different aspects of yourself into alignment. So your spiritual, your astral, your physical and your soul body, right? Bringing those 4 in. For this reason, people that work with energy or in the energy work field will do very well under this energy. The one thing that you will probably need to be very cautious about though is the strain and the toll that your work takes on your own physical body, on your own physical health. That's something that you really need to pay attention to. Your body will be your messenger this year to show you, right, okay, yes, you've got, you know, tons and bags of energy, but this is when you need to take a break, or this is when you need to slow it down. In terms of the body as well, people that work in manual healing therapies, right? So your osteopaths, chiropractors, massage therapists, manual lymphatic drainage, Alexander technique, anything where you're working with the physical body, where you're working with the structure or the systems of the body. And all of those disciplines work on the premise that you are speaking to, working with, or manipulating one of the systems at any given time, right? Systems, this is another thing with the 4 energy. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking, this sounds very Capricornian. It does, because the nature of these things are very, very much overlapped, which I find fascinating. And this is why I had to mention, you know, the synchronicities of what's taking place here this year. It's kind of uncanny. You know, we all know 2020 is going to be a big year. We've all been talking about it. Astrologers have been talking about it for years, some of them. But all of us on a collective level, you can see it, even in, you know, people that are quote unquote not spiritual or whatever. You can see that on the underlying, like when there's certain conversations or certain things come up, they pay a bit more attention. And it's because even down to the people that aren't, like we say, necessarily spiritual, all of us at a collective level understand that there is some big shift that takes place in 2020. So yeah, you know, physical manual therapists, if you're studying any of that this year, you could do very, very well, providing you're organized, orderly, providing, you know, you follow the tried and tested methods to get you through. Study hard, right? Speaking of hard, that brings me nicely on to the next one. Hard work, graft. Those are going to be the things that get you through this year. This is not the year for fast action. It's not the year for big wins. It's not the year for, oh, well, you know, I'll play it by luck or I'll play it by ear. That thinking, that energy is not going to serve you this year. It can't, because of the energy vibration that surrounds you. If you want to get something done, slow and steady is going to win the race this year. You know, and that doesn't mean shutting yourself away. Quite the opposite, actually. You know, because 4s are master builders, right? And the number 4 is the number of the builder. So if that is the case, how do you build? Well, one man can't build an entire house on his own. You know, I mean, rare individuals can, but you kind of get my point. You need support, and that is a structure, right? And finding those stable structures in your life, or building them, is going to be important for us, for sure. But hard work, right? And when I say hard work, it doesn't mean exhausting yourself every single day. What it means is there may be an energy this year where you do a lot, where you work slowly, methodically, consistently, and you think, for the amount that I've put in, I feel like I should have got a bit more out. There may not be a lot by the way of rewards this year. Big part because you're going to be so focused on what it is that you're doing that you won't really have too many times to stop and go, right, okay, wow, look at what I've achieved. That will probably come closer to the end of the year. So we're talking between October and December of 2020. When you get to that time of the year, that will be the time, you know, where you start winding down and looking at what comes next. That will be where we all probably collectively look up and go, wow, you know what, look at what I've achieved. And actually, like, I didn't even realize I'd come so far because I was so busy doing what I was doing. Busy is another word for this, but when I say busy, it's not like hustle and bustle busy. It's just constantly having work to do. So hard work is going to be the way that you get there. Dedication, right? Very, very important. Dedication for me is about the slow, steady, relentless pace that you take. When you dedicate yourself, it's almost a form of devotion, where you say, you know what, I am going to dedicate this time. I'm going to dedicate myself, my thoughts, my mind, my resources, my energy towards the outcome that I want, towards the things that I do want to create in my life, the things that I do want to have in my life. This is about, you know, when I say dedication, I mean very similar to devotion. You know, when you dedicate something, you make time for it, you make space for it, you organize your organize your personal world to encompass and also make space for whatever it is that you are trying to welcome in, whatever it is that you're trying to build or nurture in your life. The rules and regulations, just because you see, and I'll touch on this very briefly. You guys know me, I don't really get into this stuff because I find it too divisive by its very nature. Just because what you see in the papers and in the news demonstrates how some of the lawmakers and rule creators have not followed them, doesn't give you license not to. And that's not, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just saying the energy of the 4 requires that you do everything above board, that you do everything not even necessarily in plain view. It's about having integrity. You know, when you can tell that you really have integrity, when you act out of integrity and you know nobody can catch you out, when you act out of integrity when nobody's looking, right? That's how you tell that you have true integrity. Staying in your integrity and following the rules this year. This comes into this hard work thing. And when I say following the rules, this isn't about being a stickler. It's not about, you know, being rigid or anything like that. 4, it's another 4 word. You know, that can be the shadow side of the 4. What I see this as is, what are the universal laws? What are the universal laws that you know, if you break them, you feel it in your heart and soul? It's not about whether you believe in God or anything like that. It's just, I'll give you an example. When you know something in your heart and soul to be wrong and you do it anyway, you know you've crossed a boundary because it's one that you feel within yourself. So when I say follow the rules, what are the universal rules this year? Discover them so that you understand where you can kind of look at them and say, right, okay, maybe what I'm doing is not necessarily by the book or above board. And those things are going to be really important this year. Cross the T's and dot the I's. This comes into the organization, but really this is a year for it. I remember my last 4 year very, very well. And there were some things that I did that year that I didn't really understand the mistakes that I'd made until 4 or 5 years later. And I wish I'd used it in a different way. So now that I know that, when my next 4 year comes up, I'll know how to use it. Consider this is about building your foundations, right? This is the next thing that I want to talk about. Building your foundations, literally. The number 4 is the platform that you lay. It's the foundations before you build the skyscraper. It's the roots of the tree growing downward as the tree grows upward, right? So that it can create that balance and harmony. Now, when you talk about balance and harmony, you think of the number 2, right? But balance and harmony are natural byproducts of organization, of orderliness. These are things that naturally arise when you find that. And when I say building your foundations, this is a year to make them strong, whatever they are to you, whatever they mean to you. Build, we're talking about, for some people, this could be this year you're building a house. For some people, you're building a business. For some people, you're building further on the business that you have, building your career, building a relationship. This is a time to put everything under construction, right? And that's what I'll be doing through 2020. I mean, literally across the board, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And we do that stuff all the time, right? We're always under construction in a way. But 2020, because of this year, because of this energy, is a time where you can really utilize that, where you lay the strong foundations, and whatever you build this year has a chance to really succeed. Lay roots, right? This is a good year for you to find where it is that you want to live. I feel like for a lot of people, there may be cross-continental moves, cross-country moves, international moves. I feel like there's going to be a lot of changing of place this year. I feel like there will be a lot of this taking place for sure, which is really exciting, right? Because it suggests that this year when you move somewhere that actually feels like you can settle down, where you can put your feet on the ground, grow some roots and go, this is why nowhere else felt like home, because I was waiting to find this place. For a lot of people, that could really come through. Time to get real and be grounded. The number 4 is a very reality number. It's the structure, it's the physical, it's the tangible stuff. It's very much a number of reality. And when we talk about reality, there are realities beyond realities for those of us that understand, right? But I'm talking about the physical, tangible world. It's time to get real with yourself. Where have you been underperforming? Where have you maybe played around with something rather than, dedicating yourself to it? Flirted with the idea of it rather than actually giving yourself over to it. Being grounded, making decisions that are practical, making decisions that are based on facts rather than, on the facts of what is rather than what you would like it to be. This is a year to take the rose tinted glasses off. It's the time for us to really get real, to be really grounded and to understand, okay, you know what, that was just an idea, but in order for that idea to become something, I now need to start to build it. I now need to start to create it. Gain efficiency, right? And this comes in with repetition. Excuse me, right? The way that you gain efficiency, it's the same with organization, is by doing something repetitively over and over again. Very Saturnian words, very 4 energy. How do you master? Mastery, Saturn, how, the number 4, how do you master something? You do it again and again and again. I think a tagline for the number 4 would be, they say that the true master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. And it really is that. This is a year to repeat. It's a year to look at the past mistakes that you've made as well, to look at and improve on them, to build on them, so that you can say, right, okay, that doesn't necessarily work. That hasn't worked for me, but what can I learn from that? What can I take away from it? Gaining efficiency is going to be really important. Finding the best method to do something that is going to that's going to be by the book, right? So you've got to do it efficiently, organized. You've got to, repeat it over and over again until it becomes second nature. And the reason I say this is because when you gain efficiency, it's about doing the same thing but in a streamlined manner, right? Not in so many jerky motions until it just becomes smooth, it becomes silk. That comes over time. It comes through dedication. It comes through repetition. That's how you master something. Self-mastery and self-discipline are going to be big taglines for this year. You will see the people that have previously in the last 3 years, I will say the last 3 years because it feels about right to me. The people that have done the work, you will see those people start to come up. Those people will start to glow up. Those people will start to show up because they've already laid the right foundationary, structure in their own lives. Here is where they will start to build on that. Here is where their hard work will start to pay off. You might not think to yourself, oh wow, look, this is working. Like I said, it might come later in the year. That's just the energy that we're under. But true progress can be made this year if you discover self-mastery, self-discipline, doing what you say you're going to do, showing up when you say you're going to show up. If you decide to do something, follow it through. Completion. The number 4 is big on completion as well. Taking something from what we build and seeing it through to completion. That's going to be a really big energy. And I've always said 4s and 9s. If you want to see something through to completion and you want it to definitely have the energy to get finished, employ your 4 and 9 people, because they are going to get the job done, right? They'll see it through. Self-discipline. This is about saying to yourself what is important here and following it. It's about really asking yourself, what do I choose to make important? And how important is that in my own grand scheme, in my own larger life goals and overall missions, right? That self-mastery and self-discipline is going to be a big one. By the book, I mentioned this, right? The rules, the regulations, by the law. This is not a year for... Excuse me. This is not a year for illegal or illicit activities. You will get found out. You will get caught out. It may not be this year, but it will come out. And when it does, it will bite you in the butt, right? And this is why I say, whatever the people at the top are doing, all of that stuff under this energy is likely to be revealed, where they are not in integrity, where they are not in the interests of the people, all of that sort of stuff. This year, very much going to see all of that come tumbling down. It won't survive this year because there is, well, you know, the conjunction is one part of it, but there's a lot. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, fuck me, Raf, that's a bit doom and gloom, but it really isn't. And this is what I say to you. It wasn't until like 4 or 5 years after my 4 year that I realised some of the mistakes that I'd made and some of the moments where I thought, you know what, if I'd done that, it could have been so much better. This is a chance to really rebuild yourself, to rebuild your life. It's a chance for you to, if the bricks on the wall are a little bit wonky, this is the time to bring them back in line. This is the time to bring yourself back into alignment with the things that you want, with the path that you see yourself forging ahead. This is about you deciding where it is that you want to go from here. This year, excuse me, this year gives you the energy for that. It provides the right energy, the right backdrop. It provides the right environment and, you know, conditions for you to succeed. But what it requires from you is the tough stuff, you know, blood, sweat and tears. And that's not to say, you know, work yourself to the bone, but you get my point. So last year I kind of put live well, because the 3 year is, it's a lot more fun, a lot more dynamic, a bit more wishy-washy, a bit more sort of let me put my sunglasses on and, you know, go on holiday. It's a bit more of that sort of energy. Whereas the 4 is like, right, now that you've had a break, this is the time to knuckle down and get focused. So what I've written here, and this was a purely channeled message. When I looked at the board, I was like, what are you trying to tell me? Show me succinctly. If you live and stand for something now, you can build the life of your dreams. What that will require from you is a will of iron and a spirit of dedication. Do it right the first time, by the book, and what you build now will stand the test of time, right? And it really is as simple as that. All of the buzzwords were in there, all of the, you know, and when I stood back, I was like, yeah, you know what, I understand that now and I'm ready. And for me, I'm a life path 1. So 4 energy is very difficult for me to traverse. And now that I know all of this, right, now I can do it in a completely different way. Now, obviously this isn't my personal year 4, but now that I understand 4 energy that much more, I can utilize this. Within the bounds of this energy, I know how to push forward. Find out what your own life path number is, find out what your personal year number is, and that will give you an idea. And then use this as a flavor or a texture of the energy that's going to surround you all year, so that you know how to move forward with it. All right, so I hope this has helped. I hope it resonates with you. I'm really excited to hear what everybody thinks, whether they love it, whether they loathe it. It's a lot longer than I expected it was going to be, so my apologies for that. I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Have an amazing 2020 new year. I will see you then. Take care, and I'll see you soon.